Thank you very much, Dr. Fesharaki, for very, very insightful and illuminating presentation, particularly some of the points he made regarding Korean energy, particularly the policy toward the oil and gas. That's very, very illuminating, and really we wonder what we should do about this. With this very insightful presentation, I'm sure there are many questions and comments from the floor. Before we do that, for clarification, and I just want to ask you a few questions. First of all, when you said the independent oil companies, that means not related to any major.
That's independent, which means that they're not part of a group in Korea. They are just retailers. Because when you go to US, for example, you see lots of retailers which are not part of any big organization. They are just retailers. But retailers in Korea emerged in 1991, into 2001, and they became 10-12% of the market in 2 years. And the big oil companies decided to make life difficult for them, and they did. At the same time, the Korean government has a tariff rate for importation of crude and products. The tariff difference between crude and products is critical for independence. Because if the tariff is wide, it is cheaper to import crude and refine and sell it in Korea. So the tariff rate in Korea was 2%, which allowed the independent retailers, such as Tiger Oil, for example, about a dozen of them entered Korea. Korean companies started the marketing. But then, because the price of crude oil went up, the government reduced the crude tariff by 2%. So crude tariff was 5%, product tariff was 7%. The government reduced the crude tariff from 5 to 3, made the gap into 4%. So now, it's much more advantageous to import crude and refine. And the refiners and the independent importers go outside, bring products in, they have to pay 4% tariff on top of it. Plus face tremendous pressure from the existing refiners who will not do any business with them. So they were forced into bankruptcy one after the other, and they collapsed.
So independent is not the
independent is small,
yeah.
Retailers only.
It's not related to any major
or local companies in Korea.
Now another question is what is the current composition of supply of oil in terms of OPEC and non-OPEC? Is it OPEC about 30%, 35%?
No, I thought it is globally.
Yeah, globally.
Globally, OPEC volumes are about half.
About half and half?
Half. About 45%.
Yeah,
but this part of the world is about 75%.
75% this one. But globally it's about 45.
All right.
Okay. Another
in terms of total production, but in terms of trade, OPEC is 70%. Because many of the big players, like Russia or the US, produce a lot of oil, but they use it themselves. They don't trade it. But in terms of trade, OPEC is dominant.
Oh, I see. That's an important point. Yes. Another point you made was that Korea pays the highest energy price today, and due to all contracts. And then in that connection, you said that because of the policies, is it any restrictions on this?
Well, there are two issues. All contracts were signed in the late 80s, early 1990s. So at that time, I think the Korean side just didn't know that the oil price can go high. So they made it connected to the price of oil. It went up, the gas price went up. But in 2002, 2004, the price of gas was very cheap. You could buy gas for $3 deliberately to Korea. At that time, POSCO was allowed to buy, but Korea Gas was ready to sign big contract. The government would not allow it to sign. So the opportunity passed by. Today, those opportunities are no longer possible. All the supplies are bought by the Japanese. And so, in a way, the lack of clarity on the policy started, I think, from November of 1991 under the DJ Kim government, and was not clarified under the present administration. So they could not sign the agreement. And so because of that, now they have to pay 4 times more.
Okay. I have two questions. She's submitted here, but I have a hard time to read them. Are there any questions? And yes. Professor Lee and Dr. Kim, just make it your question as brief as possible.
Dr. Fesharaki, thank you very much for your excellent presentation. Although you mentioned slightly about Russian oil supply, as you know, Russian presidential election will be taking place next year. Russia energy strategy of year 2020 has been changing from Chinese-oriented Irkutsk to Dachin line to Japanese-oriented S4 line, that is from Taishet, Angarsk, Skovorodino or Nahotka, about 4,130 kilometers. Question is, do you think although politically Russia is getting close to PRC, the economically will continue to be inclined to the Angarsk to Nahotka longer line for the comprehensive development of East Asia, because next year election will take place, and also continue to suspend Sakhalin 1 and 2, in which U.S. Exxon, Royal Dutch Shell, and Japanese Mitsubishi or Mitsui Oil engaged in. That is a specification.
Okay. Many of these projects I have personal involvement in, so I can give you my insights. Actually, the project is still number one priority is PRC, not Nahotka. And from an economic point of view, China is the best buyer. Because you put it in the Chinese system are desperate for the crude, and you can bring pressure on China, and you can charge them more. You bring it to Nahotka, in Nahotka it's an open market for whoever wants to buy it. So from the Russian point of view, Chinese option much better. But remember, that field supply list has not even been developed. This is a 10-year, 15-year proposition. It's not a tomorrow's project. And to the Chinese, the Russian side has been able to make everybody give concessions without even starting the project. On the Sakhalin issues, Sakhalin 2 has not been suspended. Work continues exactly as before, but they are threatening prosecutions for violation of environmental permits. Sakhalin 2 project has cost increases of $12 billion. So the Russians are very angry. And they want a share of it without paying any money. That's what they really want. And they will get it. And once they get it, everything will be fine. And we'll go ahead. Sakhalin 1 hasn't been even suspended or nothing, no discussion about Sakhalin 1. Because Sakhalin 1, ExxonMobil wants to build a pipeline to Khabarovsk and Chinese border. But they don't want to make it LNG. At this point in time, there is no threat at all over Sakhalin 1, but the Russians are trying to threaten everybody so that they, in fact, get concessions out of them. That's the policy. And next year's election, I think the person who will be elected will be a clone of Mr. Putin, so I don't see any changes.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Fesharaki, for your very illuminating presentation, but I'm not so sure that I'm inclined to thank you. Now that you made our life quite dark and gloomy, making all those nuclear-related political crises almost redundant and superfluous because we don't seem to have too much of a future in terms of energy security. But my question is concerning our failure to do something a little more intelligent on the natural gas contract. You pointed out the fact that our long-term contracts signed about 17, 18 years ago were tied to the future oil prices. Was that the only way which is available, or is that the market practice? Why the hell did we do it? Just because we thought that our gas price would be low?
I think just lack of experience. At that time, the only buyer in the world was Japan, and the Japanese would not tell you what they did. The Japanese always put an S-curve between the ceiling and the floor. The Korean side didn't know. So the Korean side signed at that time, and the Taiwanese also did the same as the Koreans at that time. So I don't think you can really sort of say that they didn't know. And nobody expected the price of oil to go up. That is a mistake which can be forgiven, I think. What cannot be forgiven is when the price of oil was so low, and they could have signed, the price of gas was so low, and it could have been signed, the government would not allow them to sign. Because the government said, look, you cannot buy it, because if you buy it, then there's no room for private sector. I want the private sector to come in. But the private sector cannot get in because their laws have not been passed. So nobody could do it. Instead, the Japanese bought it. So what opportunities Korea Gas was ready to sign. And I think that's sort of a great tragedy. I think the result, because it's a 25-year contract, so the result of this would be, I don't know, 5-10 billion difference.
Yes, President Chung.
Thank you. This is Dr. Che from Shinhan Bank. Thank you very much for your sharing your good wisdom and insight. Yesterday I had a chance to hear the speech from number 2 man from Aramco, Mr. Hayala. And as I hear that he was trying to give certain messages as stability of oil supply as well as oil consuming countries. So he tried to persuade that reliable relationship between Saudi Arabia and Korea should go on, etc., etc. And also he tries to assure that oil supply is there and stable, saying that they continue to find new reserves of oil and expanding the oil producing capacity, and they also have extra producing surplus producing capacity there. So and then I had a question myself that why he tries to say that? What would be the worries or concerns as a oil supplying country?
Well, I mean, I think, of course, he was here because I invited him to come. And he is a person who is doing his job. If you ask ExxonMobil or Shell, they tell you the same thing. Don't worry, there'll be plenty of supplies available and the price will be low. In many ways, if you tell people that in the future the prices will be high, the government will tax you today. So the windfall profit tax will face you right away. So you have to say, look, the prices will come down, I need this money, please let me keep it to look for more oil. So on the price side, yes, the Saudis play a very important role. They are the largest producer in the world and they are the only country which keeps spare capacity. So they want to tell you, please don't worry, we are a reliable supplier, the world will be fine. But the Saudi expansion plans are all public. They will increase production by 2 million barrels per day between now and 2010, and beyond that they have no clear plan. Maybe they can increase some more, but you cannot keep increasing, there are limits. But one point I think he has right, I think the Saudis are very reliable suppliers for Korea. They would certainly, I think, more reliable than the Russians would be. So in many ways, to say, I want to diversify away from you to go to somebody else, because you're a Middle East and unstable, is not the best argument. The Saudis are big producers and they're reliable suppliers. But at the end of the day, the limits are very, very close. He's doing his job to try to assure him.
Okay. Yes, Mr. Kimberly, please.
Thank you very much, Dr. Fesharaki. I was actually feeling reasonably cheerful up to about halfway through your presentation, because as far as Korea was concerned, we seem to have a low energy need to import, particularly on the oil side, and we've got plenty of oil refining capacity as long as our refineries don't go bust, so that's okay. And then you started on the gas story, which really was very depressing. What are the chances, and is it reasonable to assume there is scope for shifting demand back from gas back to oil again? Does that make more sense for Korea to stop the expansion of natural gas use and actually go back to more oil?
Well, of course, this doesn't work with the Kyoto obligations that Korea has made, but it is actually, Korea is a very unusual country in that 70% of gas demand is in city gas, only 30% in the power sector. In Japan, it's totally reversed. Japan, 70% is in the power sector. Most countries, most of the gas demand in the power sector. For power sector, you can substitute. You build nuclear, you build coal, you do other things. But in city gas, there's nothing you can do. So once you're addicted to gas, you have no choice. The Korean situation is will continue. In fact, the gas demand in Korea is continuing. It's growing 5-6% a year. The oil demand is flat to declining. So what is needed is a policy change. The structure of the economy is too big to change.
Well, as out of my ignorance on this energy sector, do you happen to know the composition of the energy stores in Korea in terms of oil versus the gas?
I think in Korea gas is about 15% of the total, oil is about 50%, almost 50%. Then coal is quite important, 25-28%. Nuclear is very important. So the Korean composition is still gas is reasonably small in the total picture. And a lot of it, I think, would change the pipeline dreams that the government has had, I think has been the problem. If you think the pipeline is going to come, then they won't allow you to sign contracts to buy gas. And then the pipeline doesn't come and you don't have this one either. But the Korean economy is addicted to gas, and there is no getting out of it.
Now we have 3 questions she's submitted here. I think we're only about 10 minutes to go, so let me just rephrase the questions submitted here. First regards the oil price prediction for next year. And according to IMF, Mr. An, who is a reporter of the financial news, the IMF's forecast is $78 per barrel next year. Actually, you said somewhere around there, $70, $80.
Next year, no, much more. That's very much smaller, 55 to 65.
Next year, as it says, $78. So whether you share that, so you think it's below?
Much more. IMF is not famous for oil prices. wrong place to go.
Yeah, they didn't ask Mr. Fesharaki.
If you read the International Energy Agency or many of the organizations which are in this business.
They already asked, but they asked the wrong person. That's why. Okay, another question regards the alternative energy source, the ethanol and so forth. And here they mentioned particularly Brazil, whether that would make much difference in the global oil market, and is it realistic? And the other one is regarding Korea. How about Korea should go further toward nuclear generation?
In the case of the ethanol in Brazil, Brazil was a pioneer. In 1975, they moved heavily into ethanol, and they produced what they call gasohol. They put in their cars. But gasohol essentially has a 15% blend of ethanol and gasoline, which is very high. Most of the world has, mandated 5 to 10%. However, for Brazil now finds that issues of what other people want to buy has become so much, they put a limitation for lack of exports because they're worried that they won't have enough for themselves. The joke which is I use in America, when you go to drink coffee at Starbucks, you pay $3 for the coffee, but you may have to pay $4 for sugar. Because a lot of these projects which make the sugar very expensive. Sugar, corn become very, very expensive. And if we move very heavily to ethanol, essentially take our food and converting the food into fuels. This is not a bottomless pit that you can just make millions of barrels out of it. You can do some level, and everybody would be happy, although the net energy loss maker many of these things. But there are limitations to it. So every country can move a little bit and do some. But if you're a buyer, like Korea, you're not increasing your energy security. You're just as vulnerable as you were before with somebody else. Except now you can talk to Mr. Al-Kayal, one big supplier, then you have to speak to tens of thousands of sugar growers and corn growers. The issue on the nuclear power, I think the answer is probably yes. I think that the nuclear power you cannot put in your cars to drive, nor in your sort of pipes to sort of use inside the homes. So nuclear power is used for power sector. And so for power sector, which is one part of the energy sector, I think nuclear can become more important than bigger. And I think eventually nuclear and coal will dominate the power sector, and oil and gas will be kicked out of the power sector. But which is the right way to do it, because oil and gas is too valuable, too expensive to use for power. I think more nuclear in Korea is also coming.
Well, thank you very much. I think the Dr. Fesharaki, gave us many useful policy implications. But one of the, in my view, the most important policy implications, he didn't mention, but he implied, is the efficiency of our energy use. That has a lot to do with the energy pricing, which Dr. Fesharaki alluded to. You know, the other day, I played a round of golf with friends, and you know, the tee time was 1:35 or so, so I just wondered whether I can finish it. And he said, no problem, there's the night there. I played, I think about 5 holes with this night on. I was telling to my, the golf mates, we're 100% crude oil imported, and we're using this night, and nobody worries about the price of electricity. I mean, this is really something is very, very wrong, and nobody really concerned much about this electricity bills, and also we have some of the apartment buildings, big structures built and have the only centrally controlled the heating system. So the middle floors usually open the window in the because the top floors, make them warm. the middle level floor is you have too hot, so you have to open the window in the winter. So I think this is the thing. We are half as efficient as Japan's energy consumption in terms of GDP per the energy used per GDP. I think this is where the government should pay more attention to. It has a lot to do with electricity. The pricing. Actually, I met Dr. Fesharaki when I was at Blue House. At that time, the major concern was in the price. Actually, we keep raising the price so that we can have at least the gasoline price higher than some of the oil-producing countries in the UK. So that was our benchmark, and we did it. But after that, it's just when global the oil price went down, the price was permitted to go down, and then price went up and never went up. So this right, but at that time we had the buffer, and then we absorb it and then release it, and then with that system is gone. So I think this is the really key thing. If we took Dr. Fesharaki's message right, then I think we do something about this pricing, and this is the way we should get out the attention on the policymakers. Well, with this, I think we have to end, and I appreciate very much for the Dr. Fesharaki's very, very insightful presentation. And thank you, Charles, with us. And as I said, Dr. Fesharaki runs his own consulting firm, but he is with the East-West Center as a senior developer. And I hope we will get more frequent. Thank you very much.